Some machines earn their legacy not through their time on the assembly line, but through the stories they spark, stories of rebellion, innovation, and endurance that stretch far beyond the open road. Every decade has its hero vehicle, the one that captures the pulse of the people and mirrors the culture that built it. Some shine for their engineering, others for their attitude. But a few rare examples manage both, fusing power, design, and myth into something unforgettable. This is the story of one such car, a model born in an era of roaring engines and fearless ambition that went on to become one of the most recognizable silhouettes in American automotive history. Its roar echoed through Hollywood soundstages, racetracks, and suburban streets alike, embodying an energy that still feels alive today. Stick around as we trace its journey from factory floor to film fame and cultural immortality. And if you love exploring the machines that shaped our world, like this video, subscribe for more, and tell us which automotive icon we should feature next. The 1969 Dodge Charger R/T arrived at a moment when the American car market was teetering between design excess and mechanical innovation. Detroit's factories were churning out horsepower like a badge of national pride, and Dodge wanted a statement piece. The Charger R/T, short for road/track, was that statement. Its shape was both muscular and elegant, with its long hood, fastback roofline, and the now famous hidden headlamps that gave it an almost predatory stance. This was not just another big coupe, it was a declaration of performance intent. The standard 440 cubic inch Magnum V8 was already potent, but buyers could opt for the legendary 426 Hemi, a motor that turned stoplights into drag strips. In an era before electronics and driver aids, it took real skill and nerve to command that much torque, and that became part of the Charger R/T's mystique. What set the 1969 model apart was its refinement over earlier versions. Dodge engineers had ironed out complaints about handling from the first-generation car, giving it a sturdier suspension and more balanced steering. The result was a car that could go fast in a straight line and hold its own in the corners. Styling tweaks also played a huge role in shaping its personality. The full-width taillight panel, recessed grille, and contoured body lines created one of the most cohesive and aggressive looks of the decade. It wasn't just a car built to move, it was built to be seen. Inside, the Charger R/T struck a balance between comfort and attitude. Bucket seats, a wood-grain dash, and a driver-focused cockpit reminded owners that this was a premium machine, not a stripped-down racer. Yet every design choice pointed toward performance. The pistol grip shifter, the sweeping speedometer, even the way the car idled at a stoplight, gave the impression of a sleeping giant waiting for permission to awaken. Dodge marketed it as both a luxury performance coupe and a street-dominating machine, and that dual identity made it irresistible to buyers across generations. By the time the 1969 Dodge Charger R/T hit showrooms, muscle car culture had reached its peak. Rivals were pushing displacement and speed records, but few could match the Charger's blend of style and aggression. It represented the ideal balance between show and go, a car you could drive to work, then to the drag strip on the weekend, and still turn heads at every intersection. Enthusiasts quickly discovered that the Charger R/T wasn't just fast in a straight line, it handled better than its size suggested, thanks to its long wheelbase and rear-wheel drive layout. Part of the Charger's appeal lay in how it defied easy categorization. It wasn't a compact muscle car like some rivals, it was a grand statement, almost a luxury car that just happened to have enough power to humble sports coupes. That tension between refinement and raw energy gave it a special identity. Dodge engineers understood the importance of image, and they leaned into it. Promotional materials painted the Charger R/T as the ultimate expression of freedom and confidence. Yet what truly set the 1969 Charger R/T apart was timing. The car arrived just before tightening emissions laws and rising insurance costs began to choke the muscle car market. It was one of the last unrestrained expressions of American horsepower before the oil crises and regulatory era reshaped performance cars forever. As such, it became a symbol not only of speed but of a fleeting golden age. Its influence extended beyond the street. The Charger R/T found its way into NASCAR, where modified versions battled on high-banked ovals against the best of the competition. Dodge's aerodynamic Daytona variant, built off the Charger's platform, was developed specifically to conquer those high-speed circuits, pushing the design to even more extreme levels. But it all began with the 1969 base, the model that set the foundation for that success. Even those who never owned one could recognize it instantly. The shape, the attitude, the sound, it all burned into the public imagination. And as the decade turned and car culture shifted, the 1969 Charger R/T carried on as a reference point, the yardstick against which other muscle cars were measured. It wasn't just transportation, it was an identity, a way for drivers to project confidence, power, and independence. This first segment of its journey captures why the 1969 Dodge Charger R/T wasn't simply a product of its time, it was a defiant answer to it. Every detail, from the sculpted sheet metal to the monstrous engine, reflected the optimism and excess of the late 1960s. But its story didn't end with horsepower, it was about to find a second life in the unlikeliest of places. The next chapter would see the Charger R/T step off the assembly line and onto the silver screen, where it would trade racetracks for movie sets and become one of Hollywood's most enduring icons. The 1969 Dodge Charger R/T's leap from the road to the big screen was not planned as a marketing move, it was a natural evolution of its larger-than-life personality. Hollywood has always searched for machines that reflect character, and few cars embodied rebellion and raw charisma like the Charger R/T. When filmmakers needed something that could steal a scene without a single line of dialogue, this was it. The sleek, aggressive stance and unmistakable exhaust note made it a star the moment cameras rolled. The first major breakthrough came with the film Bullitt in 1968, which featured a Charger in one of the most famous car chases ever captured on film. Even though the specific model year on screen predated the 1969 version, the image it projected cemented Dodge's coupe as the ultimate antagonist on four wheels. By the time the 1969 Dodge Charger R/T appeared in television series and later blockbusters, the public already viewed it as a symbol of speed and defiance. It was not just a car in these productions, it was a co-star, a physical embodiment of attitude. Hollywood's use of the Charger R/T transformed it into something more than a collector's dream. In The Dukes of Hazzard, the 1969 model became a household name, painted bright orange and airborne across countless dirt roads. Viewers didn't care about technical specs or horsepower ratings, they connected with its shape, its fearlessness, its unspoken promise of freedom. Each episode turned the car into folklore, merging stunt driving and storytelling until the line between reality and entertainment blurred. The Charger R/T became a legend through repetition, its stunts broadcast weekly into living rooms across America. But there was a deeper truth behind its fame. Hollywood productions went through hundreds of Chargers during filming, each one subjected to intense use and high-stress action sequences. These cars were not treated as precious artifacts, they were tools of spectacle. Yet, paradoxically, that sacrifice only elevated the Charger R/T's reputation. The more audiences saw them fly, slide, and roar, the more they became fascinated by the real thing. Suddenly, owning one wasn't just about performance, it was about owning a piece of cinematic history. As the Charger R/T's image grew, so did its cultural footprint. It became shorthand for rebellion, independence, and American muscle. Advertisers referenced it, musicians posed with it, and kids hung posters of it on their walls. Unlike some contemporaries that faded with the decade, the 1969 Dodge Charger R/T stayed relevant because it lived a double life, half real, half myth. Its appearances in later films and franchises reignited its reputation with new generations, ensuring that even viewers born decades after 1969 recognized its shape instantly. From a production standpoint, the Charger R/T's visual appeal was unmatched. Its wide, low-profile look commanding on camera, Its hidden headlamps gave it a mysterious, almost menacing quality. Directors could frame it in shadow or sunlight and get the same striking result. No computer graphics were needed. The car's design did all the storytelling. Even in scenes where it wasn't moving, the Charger carried an aura of tension, as if it could burst into action at any moment. Beyond the glamour, though, lies a story about timing and cultural resonance. When the Charger R/T became a screen icon, the automotive world was already shifting. Emissions regulations, insurance costs, and safety standards were beginning to reshape what manufacturers could build. The muscle car era was on borrowed time, yet the Charger endured in pop culture precisely because it represented something that could no longer exist in the showroom, a pure, unapologetic performance machine. That symbolism made it valuable far beyond its mechanical qualities. Hollywood had given the Charger R/T immortality, but the fans kept it alive. Car clubs emerged, restoration projects began, and collectors started chasing down surviving models. What had been a relatively accessible street car became a piece of Americana, commanding respect and high prices wherever it appeared. The more rare it became, the more people wanted to preserve it. In retrospect, the 1969 Dodge Charger R/T became a mirror for how Americans view freedom and individuality. Every burnout scene, every on-screen pursuit, every roar of that V8 echoed something deeper in the national psyche, the idea that machinery can represent rebellion without uttering a single word. It bridged the gap between the tangible and the mythic, and that's a feat few cars or characters ever achieve. As the decades passed, nostalgia only amplified its legend. Reruns, remakes, and movie tributes brought the Charger R/T to audiences who weren't alive when it first rolled off the line. Collectors began documenting VIN numbers, restorers hunted for original parts, and online communities shared every detail about its specifications. The 1969 Charger R/T had become more than a muscle car. It was now a cultural artifact, meticulously studied and lovingly rebuilt. This second act in its story shows that the 1969 Dodge Charger R/T transcended its steel and chrome origins to become something far more enduring. Its cinematic fame turned a performance car into a universal symbol of individuality and power. But legends only last when they evolve, and the Charger's next chapter would prove how a car born in the 1960s could adapt to a digital century. In the final segment, we'll explore how the Charger R/T spirit lives on today, not just in collectors' garages but in the continuing pulse of American car culture. The 1969 Dodge Charger R/T's journey into the modern era is proof that true legends never fade, they evolve. Long after the last one left the factory floor, its image continued to accelerate through time, gathering new meaning with every generation that rediscovered it. For car enthusiasts, the Charger R/T represents more than nostalgia. It embodies an ideal of freedom, mechanical purity, and design confidence that newer machines often struggle to capture. Even as automotive technology moved toward computers and efficiency, the 1969 model stood as a reminder of the raw connection between driver and machine. As the 1980s and 1990s unfolded, the Charger R/T became a holy grail for collectors. The market for muscle cars had cooled in the late 1970s, but by the time enthusiasts began restoring them in earnest, the 1969 version rose above the rest. Its Hollywood fame gave it a built-in mystique, while its limited surviving numbers added rarity. Restoration shops across the country started specializing in Chargers, and parts that once sat forgotten in scrapyards became treasures. The process of rebuilding one turned into a kind of pilgrimage. Every bolt and panel carried a story. The collector boom of the early 2000s sent prices skyrocketing, but more importantly, it reignited a conversation about what the Charger R/T represented. Younger generations who had never seen one new began to view it as a time capsule of American design. Its proportions, long hood, short deck, aggressive stance, became the blueprint for modern performance styling. Automakers borrowed cues from it, and even Dodge itself paid homage when it revived the Charger nameplate decades later. The 1969 R/T had become the spiritual ancestor to a new wave of cars that balance retro looks with modern engineering. But while many reimagined vehicles fade into novelty, the Charger's revival felt authentic because the original had substance behind its style. The 1969 Dodge Charger R/T was not famous only for its looks, it was genuinely formidable. When modern drivers encounter one today, they experience something that no new car can replicate: the sensation of raw, mechanical feedback unfiltered by technology. The heavy steering, the deep idle, the slight vibration of the V8, all combine to create an analog thrill that feels almost rebellious in a digital world. This contrast has made the 1969 Charger R/T a touchstone for car culture's ongoing conversation about authenticity. It challenges enthusiasts to ask what performance really means. Is it raw power, or is it the feeling of control that comes from mastering something untamed? The Charger suggests it is both. Its legacy encourages a balance between technological progress and the emotional connection that defines driving passion. Even as electric powertrains and automation reshape the industry, the Charger R/T reminds us that a machine's soul matters as much as its speed. Car meets and rallies across the United States continue to feature restored Chargers, many owned by fans who were not alive when the car was new. For them, the 1969 Dodge Charger R/T is not a relic, it is a living symbol of identity and pride. It represents family legacies, shared projects, and the simple joy of preserving something timeless. Online communities exchange restoration tips, showcase builds, and trade stories about how they first discovered the car. The conversations always circle back to the same truth: the Charger R/T inspires connection between generations, between enthusiasts, and between people and the machines they love. The car's influence even extends into art and media. Designers cite it as inspiration for fashion, photography, and even digital artwork. Video games replicate its lines with painstaking accuracy, giving players a taste of its commanding presence. Movies continue to resurrect it in new forms, always as the unmistakable symbol of confidence and power. Decades after its debut, the 1969 Dodge Charger R/T still commands the same respect it did on the showroom floor and the movie screen. Yet, what makes this car's story so remarkable is its resilience. Many vehicles of its era disappeared into history, forgotten as trends changed and technologies advanced. But the Charger R/T persists because it represents more than performance, it represents attitude. Its sound, its proportions, its history, all capture a uniquely American mindset: bold, self-assured, and unwilling to blend in. In a world of conformity, it stands as a reminder that individuality still matters. Today, seeing a restored 1969 Dodge Charger R/T glide through traffic or rumble into a car show feels like witnessing a piece of living heritage. It bridges past and present with ease, reminding us that design done with conviction never truly ages. Whether it is admired for its engineering, its cinematic fame, or its cultural resonance, the Charger's appeal endures because it taps into something universal: the human desire to be seen, heard, and remembered. As we look at the modern automotive landscape, filled with hybrids, EVs, and automated systems, the Charger R/T's continued relevance proves that emotion cannot be engineered away. Enthusiasts who climb behind it will understand that it is not just about speed or status, it is about connection. The 1969 Dodge Charger R/T carries the legacy of an era when cars were extensions of personality and freedom, not just tools for transportation. This final chapter of its evolution is not an ending but a continuation. The 1969 Dodge Charger R/T remains a benchmark for how a car can transcend time, technology, and even its creators. It stands as a mechanical legend that still inspires creativity and reverence across generations. And as long as there are people who appreciate the beauty of motion and the art of engineering, the roar of this American icon will never fade. Its story is a testament to the fact that legends may age, but they never slow down. The 1969 Dodge Charger R/T began as a bold experiment in style and performance, but its journey turned it into something far greater. Across 5 decades, it evolved from a muscle car into a symbol, an idea that fused the thrill of speed with the promise of individuality. Its presence in garages, movies, and hearts around the world proves that the machines we build can outlast the eras that shaped them. The Charger R/T story is not only about engineering excellence, it is about cultural endurance. What makes the 1969 Dodge Charger R/T so captivating today is how it continues to define what a true performance car should feel like. It is unapologetically mechanical, proudly analog, and completely authentic. Even as technology advances, drivers seek that same sense of control and connection the Charger offered half a century ago. Each restoration, each preserved model, becomes an act of keeping that spirit alive. Looking back, it is easy to see why this car remains a benchmark. It captured the optimism of its age while setting a timeless standard for design. Its aggressive stance, sculpted body lines, and thunderous engine note came together in perfect harmony. Those qualities continue to influence the modern automotive world, reminding designers and enthusiasts alike that emotion should never be engineered out of performance. The legacy of the 1969 Dodge Charger R/T endures because it speaks to something fundamental about the American dream. It stands for freedom, power, and the pursuit of excellence. It represents the belief that a person and a machine can share a single purpose: to go further, faster, and with more confidence than before. That message resonates as strongly now as it did when the first Charger rolled off the line. So whether you know it from a classic movie chase, a car show, or the sound of its V8 echoing through an empty street, the 1969 Dodge Charger R/T continues to connect generations through motion and memory. It reminds us that legends are not built in a moment. They are forged over time by passion, purpose, and performance that never fades. This was never just a car, it was, and remains, a statement.